Welcome to the City Rooster Forum. I'm Kenny the Rooster, and today we have the key phrase, the mental illness industry. Yes, the mental illness industry. The mental illness industry is one of the tickets to socialism that people feel is a reward to them. It's not. It's a punishment. It's a punishment to give away your life and control. A lot of progressive liberals, or people that have been sucked into the progressive movement, always like to use the term mentally ill to avoid responsibility. Originally, only mentally ill people were diagnosed as mentally ill. In an earlier time, that would be up to, say, maybe 100,000 people for 1 million people. Even earlier, it was over 50,000 people per 1 million people. In earlier times, it was even less. When the progressive movement started, the only people that were diagnosed as mentally ill were people that were actually mentally ill. Nowadays, everybody is mentally ill that commits a crime. Everybody that commits a crime is diagnosed with some form of mental illness. They use it for their cases. They use it for money, that they can sue for money by saying you're suing a mentally ill person and you're discriminating the mentally ill. They say that. And they're not mentally ill at all. So today, 1 out of every 30 people, on the average, approximately, who is diagnosed as mentally ill is actually mentally ill. Okay? We're talking about schizophrenia. We're talking about multiple personalities. We're talking about all sorts of people who want to say that they can control their mind, and they will use some diagnosed mental illness to take away from their responsibilities. It's giving a lot of violent criminals an incentive to commit a violent crime, to kill people. In a country where freedom was originally something to give people the choice to use their talents or skills, now they're going the other way. Now they're trying to say, I can't learn this because I'm mentally ill. I can't learn this because mental illness has captivated my mind, and I can't read or write because I'm mentally ill. They say that all the time. Mentally ill people do that. Or diagnosed mentally ill people, should I say. Now the ratio is even less. In another 20 years, only 1 out of every 50 people who are diagnosed with a mental illness will actually be considered mentally ill or actually have something. And this is actually creating a problem for the medical industry. It's causing a lot of lawyers to work through the law for criminals they know actually should be punished. This was not what due process about. Due process was about determining whether a person was guilty or innocent. Now, everybody who commits a crime is innocent. That's what's happening here. We're having people do it all the time. There was a man who killed a woman in a Charlotte subway system. Don't have the names off the hand. Okay? It was a terrible crime, and this man was on a long list of violent crimes before. Now, of course, they're saying he's not competent to stand trial, which is not true. It's just a lawyer creating another delay based on a phony mental illness. Now, there's a very good chance that this particular murderer is going to get off scot-free. Now, they say he's going to be in mental health facilities for the rest of his life. And whether that's true or not, or whether that happens or not, it's bad either way, because what's going to happen with him is that either he walks scot-free and endangers the public, or he sits in a mental health institute and endangers some other people that are being sheltered there and kills somebody there. So he'll kill somebody one way or the other. It's not because of mental illness, it's because of his desire to kill. There are people in the Middle East that die to try to kill people. They're not mentally ill. They're never diagnosed as mentally ill because they're not living in free countries. We live in a free country, but this free country was meant to provide freedom for people who are willing to take on the responsibility and endure in capitalism. Now, mental illness is the ticket to socialism and is a way to give people permission not to be responsible, not to be peaceful, not to live life in peace, not to live life without committing crime. A lot of shoplifters who get caught get off because they're said to be mentally ill and they don't need their constitutional rights violated. A lot of lawyers who not only have found many loopholes to get all of their violent criminal clients off, mental illness is one of the big tickets to doing that. Pretty soon we won't know if somebody really is mentally ill or not, because everybody is diagnosed with a mental illness. Early on in life, I went to therapy because I was told therapy would help some of my problems. What did therapists do? Therapists either tried to tell me that everything was my fault or that nothing was my fault, but that it should have happened. They also said, I happen to know the psychiatrist next door. Would you like me to get a prescription so you can take this medicine? Now, prescription medication by a psychiatrist is not meant to help people. It's meant to hurt people. It's meant to destroy their lives. It's meant to destroy their personalities. I learned the hard way early on when it almost costed me my education. And I told myself, I don't want to get involved with psychiatrists again, because psychiatrists are adversaries. They're very bad people. They may be good people at home. They may be good husbands. They may be good parents. But when they go to work as psychiatrists, their intent is to destroy lives, to hurt people, to ruin their bodies, to ruin their health, and then say they're mentally ill. I remember my daughter being in school, and they said that she was rowdy because she had attention deficit disorder, which is not a psychological problem. It's just something a child needs to be taught to overcome. They wanted to put medicine in her. And I was the parent that said no, even though her mother initially said yes. But then when she heard what I had to say, she thought it was a good idea to keep her off medicine. I said, let's just teach the child to have good study habits so she doesn't become a class clown, so she doesn't disturb the rest of the class, so she doesn't upset the teacher. The transgender movement is maintained by trying to make people believe that they have a mental illness. And people think today that transgenders are mentally ill. They're not. They're just scammers. Anybody who says they're transgender is lying to you. Anybody that says they identify as the opposite sex is lying. They know they're lying. And they're going along with this because somebody trained them to believe this lie and indoctrinate them. And they were willing to ruin their lives and screw up their entire body so they could believe that they were absolutely the opposite gender. And it didn't work because there were many regrets about this. Many people are sorry that they can't have kids. Many people are sorry that they have all these health problems as a result. Who actually started the transgender movement before the doctors had an obsession with changing a gender surgery. Who started all that? Feminists and psychiatrists. Psychiatrists will want to give you medicine and say, this will make you a better person. This will help you to understand yourself. You'll perform better when you're on this medicine. And people who take this medicine actually believe it. And then they say, I can't function without this depression medication. Depression is an environmental disorder. It's not a psychological disorder. It's not psychological at all. Many people have wanted to put me on depression medication because I was unhappy about certain things that I had to overcome. And I overcame them. And I'm proud of myself for it. And I have a stable mind. Why? Because I don't take psychiatric medication. I don't depend on it. Depending on psychiatric medication is the same as depending on street drugs. They're all dangerous narcotics. They shorten the lifespan. They decay your health. You end up with a lot of health problems. You're a better candidate for cancer or heart attacks or strokes by taking psychiatric medication. It's just as bad as any addictive medication that you get off the street. It's worse than cocaine. It's worse than LSD. It's much worse than marijuana. You don't have to be a doctor to realize this. You don't have to be a physicist to realize this. All you have to do is experience it yourself and look around you and see what's happening to other people. Why would you want other people to ruin their lives for something that almost ruined yours? It doesn't make sense. So what happens here, even though I can't get a grasp on the numbers, although I try, I'll admit I'm not a statistician. So I use approximate numbers. I cut the corners, things that are safe. There are journalists out there, podcasters, that do the news, such as Bill O'Reilly or Megyn Kelly or Matt Walsh or somebody really worthy of statistics that can actually give you better numbers than I'd ever be able to give you. But it's pretty bad. A lot of times when I'm in conversation, many times people tell me, you have to forgive that person. He might have a mental illness. Mental illness, phony mental illness, which has dominated over 90% of all the people that do wrong things, are used as excuses for wrongdoing and encourage people to do things wrong. I watch podcasters I don't agree with, or people on TV, and they say maybe they're mentally ill. I saw Ilhan Omar, representative in Minnesota, and she said something really stupid. She didn't talk about it as World War II. She talked about it as World War XI. How can you make a stupid mistake like that? And she said it several times and repeated it, so it wasn't just a slip of the tongue. And people around me who knew me, who heard this, said, well, maybe she's got a mental disability. Maybe she's mentally ill in some sort. No, she's not mentally ill. She's just a cold-hearted criminal who's trying to change her culture. Many of these people are cold-hearted criminals. Why don't we just admit that they're cold-hearted criminals? Why don't we just stop trying to look for excuses? Everybody looks for excuses. Now, the senior population is vulnerable to that because our body gives and goes when we get older. I'm getting older. I run into certain physical problems, and still I have a stable mind. Of course, I'd hope not to ever have dementia, which happens in older people. Hopefully I won't ever have a cognitive problem like Joe Biden had in his final 2 years as president, because my family would have a field day with me, and they'd be shoving a whole bunch of psychiatric medication in me, and they would kill me that way. They don't even come around now, but they'll come around when they see they have something to play with. A lot of people of the progressive movement like to play around with things. They think everything that requires responsibility is a joke. And they think that mental illness is a joke. So whenever somebody is diagnosed with a mental illness, that's funny to some people. They're like, oh, that's great. Now you can do anything you want. You can kill anybody. You can destroy something. You can vandalize. You can shoplift. You'll get off easy. That's what mental illness diagnoses are for. A lot of the people who apply for disability instead of go out and get a work that are not physically disabled say they have a mental illness. And Social Security is going to go bankrupt because it's being overwhelmed by the incredible increase of mentally ill population that are told they're mentally ill and that's their disability because they're told that they're screwed up in the head or they're told that they can't think straight. When I was in school, I went to special ed, both in public and private schools. Back in the day when public school was a thing. Now public school's not a thing anymore. I had a learning disability. They wanted to give me medicine for it. I said, no, I want to learn. My grandfather gave me a very good piece of advice. He said, Kenny, don't be afraid to work twice as hard as the next student if that's what you need to do to get to the same distance. And I followed that advice, and I graduated from high school with honors. And I'm proud of that. And that's an example of how you can really make something good of yourself rather than just feel sorry for yourself and depend on pills or other medicine. George Carlin, in one of his stand-up comedies, he was talking about soft language. He said, when did medicine become medication? Well, medicine became medication when doctors found that it's a good moneymaker for people to play with. They can take it anytime they want. Some of our greatest musicians died because they took medicine with their liquor and died from the effects of it. It didn't help them. It didn't make them better, as they were told. It didn't get them off liquor, as they're told. It didn't alleviate the stress from classic touring, as they were told. It just helped to kill them. Psychiatric medicine does that. Psychiatric medicine kills brain cells. It destroys brain cells. So you go back to the psychiatrist. What does the psychiatrist do? He says, well, that's just a side effect of the medication. I will give you another medication to alleviate the side effects of the first medication. So now you're taking 2. And before you know it, you're taking 5. And while somebody is making a lot of money, including the psychiatrist, and Big Pharma is indulging in it, your health is declining. And you're not even going to make a ripe old age of 50 or 60. You may not even make 40. Lots of times you don't make 30. A lot of the people that are on SNAP are living off of SNAP because they're lazy. And they're 400 pounds and 25 years old. They're taking medication to make them feel that they're doing the right thing. And the government is paying for it. Why does the government pay for it? Why do they spend this money ridiculously on this stuff? Because they're paying for control. That's what the government wants. The government wants control. And that's why they're spending all of your hard-earned tax dollars on these ridiculous things so they can get control. And this is what happens to people who get caught in the medicine game. When they start to get addicted to psychiatric medication, it's just as bad as street drugs. It's just as bad as marijuana or cocaine or LSD or any other hard drugs, PCP. We've sang songs about it, but we sang songs about it not because it's something to be a privilege of, but because this is what we wanted to do or we wanted to be outspoken about. And you think more people would stand up and lash out against a psychiatrist. Psychiatry is a very wasted game. All it does is make money, ruining other people's lives. And this is what happens to people who get involved in psychiatric medicine and claim mental illness. Thank you for watching the City Rooster Forum. Please like, share, and comment on any video you see. Sometimes we actually mention those comments in our forums. Please stay tuned and keep up with the City Rooster Forum.